This garment was called a mayil. And of course, we know the Hebrew word mim, prefix, means from or out of. That word ayil is a contractive form of the word ayil, which was a word for ram. Pointing us back to Genesis 3:21, where Yahweh slaughters the lamb, where he provides a ram for Isaac, and where he provides the ram for you and I at the place called Golgotha. My goodness. Now, it was the unveiling of the Urim and Thummim, the lights that judged or vindicate. Now, this is where this gets really interesting. You can go back to Genesis chapter 1, verses 3 and 4, and Yahweh speaks to us, and he says, let there be. That phrase in the Hebrew language is condensed into one word. Strong's number 1961, Hayah. Hayah. Which means to become, to exist, to arise, to appear. The thing that's striking here is that is also part of the name that Yahweh says, prior to this, I didn't reveal myself to them by my name. Talking to Moses, when Moses says, whom will I say has sent me? And he says, from this time forward, my name will be revealed as Ayah or Hayah, Asher Hayah. I am that I am, or I will be that will be. And so when you see that phrase, let there be light, Hayah, it's literally implying that the I am will be light. Now think about this. Think about this. If Yahweh is light, light wasn't created. The stellar luminaries were created, but light was already here because Yahweh was light. Hold on to your seat. We got to get this. What happened here then, since it was not created light, then that light was already in existence. It was literally light that is suddenly revealed. In other words, in this darkness or the mystery. Now, the word for darkness here is not the kind of darkness that you and I are talking about or thinking about, because when we think about darkness, we think about the place where sin hides. But it tells us that Yahweh hides in the darkness himself and is clothed with the darkness. And so in this instance, this darkness is literally talking about a place of mystery, a place of intimacy, a place where something is hidden from other people or other individuals. And so when he says, let there be, what he has done, he's just now chosen to reveal a portion of himself. And who did he reveal himself in? Remember that Et Haor that we just got, Et Ha-Urim? The Aleph and Tav, the lights. Well, when he says, let there be lights, if you go back and look, it's talking about, when it says, and there was light, it's Et Haor. So when he chose to reveal himself as the Urim in the earth, or the light in the earth, he chose to reveal himself in the person of that direct object called the Aleph and Tav. Can y'all see that? So I really believe with all my heart, since the high priest's garments was a shadow picture, a microscopic view of the temple man, the temple pattern. If you go back and look at the temple, how it was laid out in the earth, it's actually laid out in the form of a man. That was a microscopic view of the fact that the Adam, the first high priest in the earth, who was laid out on the face of the earth, became a microscopic view of the pattern from the heavenlies, where you had the furnishings in the stellar heavens that Yahweh revealed to Moshe. What you literally find here then is that Yahweh, being the high priest, takes out of the vestment, out behind the breastplate. And the breastplates would have been the 12 stars of the zodiac. Takes out of the constellational signs the Urim and Thummim, the Aleph and Tav, lights and perfections. In other words, he just took the Messiah out from behind the hidden place, out of the dark place, out of this pocket, and reveals him to the earth. You understand what I'm talking about? Yes. Yeshua becomes the manifest presence of Yahweh. That's why he said, Philip, if you've seen me, you've seen Father. Why? Because when he said, let there be light, he says, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reveal myself in the earth in the presence or in the form of the Aleph and Tav. He will become lights and perfection in the earth. He will become both guilty and faultless, so that you might be judged, exonerated, and vindicated in the earth. Can y'all see that? That makes me want to shout. He manifests himself as light, which being synonymous with Torah identifies that manifest presence, the Aleph and Tav. It identifies the Aleph and Tav as the Messiah. Can you see it? Can y'all see it? All right. Back to Genesis 1, verse 3 and 4. Et Haor. You can see it right here. Aleph and Tav, the light. Now, if you would do the math here, we were looking at it a little bit last night. The Aleph is represented by what? Number 1. The Tav is number 600. The Hay is number 6. Aleph again, number 1. Y'all help me out? And then you have a Vav is 6. You put them together, you got a 600, a 1, that's 601. You got a Hay, which is a 5, that'd be 606. Then you got another Aleph there, it'd be 607. Then you'd have another Hay. You don't show it there like it's supposed to. You have the Aleph and Tav, the Hay, the Aleph, and the Vav. 600 for the Tav, 1 for the Aleph, 5 for the Hay, and a 6 for the Vav. That is 613. Just happens to be the number of the commandments in the Torah, 613. That same phrase in Genesis 1, 3, and 4 is seen in Exodus 28 and 30, where it's connected with the Urim and Thummim, only it's in plural form. The Et Ha Urim. The same phrase. So when you see the Aleph and Tav connected with this Urim and Thummim, it's a connection to the commandments of Yahweh, the law of Yahweh. And it's that law that judged all of creation. Can you say amen? Now, the original Hebrew language in Genesis 1 verse 4 reads this. Vayavda Elohim ben ha'or uvein ha'choshek. Are y'all with me? Vayavdal Elohim ben ha'or uvein ha'choshek. Now we were taught that it means after Yahweh said, let there be light, and there was light, and it was good, and Yahweh separated the light from the darkness. That's the word from is not in the Hebrew language. You have the word badal and bain. They all three mean the same thing. They mean divided. The word bain is redundant one time, so it literally should read in the Hebrew language thus. Yahweh divided the light, and Yahweh divided the darkness. And what we're finding when you see that is that he's separating the spiritual from the hidden darkness. Remember where he resides. He hides in the darkness. He's separating the light from that darkness. And it's called an obscure dark place, a secret place. And you can go in Job 26, Job 20, 26, Isaiah 45, 3, where he promised you the treasures in those secret places. And you'll find that the reason that the Urim and Thummim are hidden within the breastplate behind the 12 stones, and those 12 stones representing 12 constellations and 12 tribes, is because of what I shared with you earlier. The microscopic plan of Yahweh in the attire of this high priest is to represent his plan that was written in the stellar heavens. It was designed in the temple man, the way that the temple is outlined. It was designed in the robes of the high priest, and it's a teaching tool to remind us. 3 minutes. Revelation 21, 19 through 23. Think about this. It tells us that there will be no need for the sun and the moon. This is when the new tabernacle, the new temple, is brought down here to the earth. And there will be no need for the sun and the moon. Why? Because the Father and the Messiah will be the light thereof. What you find is a reference here to lights and perfection. The Father being perfection and Yeshua being light. You have the Urim and Thummim being restored in the tabernacle. Can y'all see that? We also can note, if you look at it, the order of the stones that around the house of Israel in the wilderness and on the breastplate. Again, is a detailed view of the stellar heavens. And Psalm 19 tells us how the sun navigates or circumnavigates this particular zodiacal ecliptic, if you will. Now, what's exciting to me is that when you look at that tunic or robe that was called a ma'il, made of that sky blue, 12-layered garment out of wool. How many of you know what the number 12 in Hebrew is represented by? The lamed. The lamed was a shepherd's staff or goad, and when it's seen depicted, it's pointing or urging you towards something. And isn't that what the Torah does? And so the very way that the tunic was constructed was to remind us that the Torah of Yahweh does what? It goads us. It urges us. It prods us towards whom? Yahweh. And who's the shepherd doing the prodding and the urging? None other than that priest who is attired with those garments. I guess y'all aren't seeing. Are y'all getting any of this? Now, that sky blue dye, I know you've probably heard this before, but there's a snail called a murex snail. Been missing for 2,000 years. And the technology that went along with that. It's been rediscovered. The neat thing about it is that they applied a spectrometer to it, and the light waves that were issued forth from that were fractionated according to the measurement of the visible length of the color spectrum, and that sky blue comes out to 613 nanometers. No, that was just coincidence. Yahweh just kind of threw that in there. Basically, that sky blue 12-layer wool is again pointing us back to the commandments of the Torah of Yahweh. Yeah. If you'll tune in to track 3 of this particular CD, we'll finish this up. Can y'all hold on for just a minute? Thank you for tuning back in with us. We've been looking at the Urim and Thummim, which was the 2 instruments that were inside the breastplate of the high priest that were used to answer the petitions of the children of Israel, or the king or the priest, when they would petition the high priest for answers for whatever the case might have been. Now, in opposition to that, since we know that Hasatan does everything he can to counterfeit, I want to look at the Hasatan's breastplate. Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 13 tells us that he was perfect in the day that he was created. Am I right? And that, well, I want you to go back so you can read this with me. Ezekiel 28 verse 13. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of Yahweh. Every precious stone was your covering. And then he names these stones. The sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, carbuncle, gold. Gold here is not a stone, by the way. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou was created. Now let me just share something with you. We've all taught, since we read that tabrets there, and it's translated in the Strong's Concordance as Strong's number 8596, toph, that it means a timbrel. Timbrel is an Elizabethan word for tambourine. And so we were taught that it had to do with musical instruments. But the actual proper translation of that word tabrets in the Hebrew, and you can go to Biblical Hebrea, and you'll find that the word should be translated settings. Settings. And the word for pipe, Strong's number 5345, is nekev, which means groove, socket, settings as well. Both of these terms are terms that a jeweler would use. And by giving you the names of these stones here, by the way, there are 9 stones here. 9 of the 12 on the high priest's breastplate. And he's telling you that these stones were literally set in the breastplate of this Hasatan. Are you following me? Now, Hasatan does not have 3 of those particular stones. And before we get that, I want to examine who he is. If you go back, he's referred to as Lucifer, son of the morning. Am I right? The word for Lucifer in the Hebrew is Strong's number 1966, and it's pronounced Hallel. And of course it means light bearer, to praise, to shine. Hallel ben Shakur, Lucifer, son of the morning. Ben, Strong's number 1121, sun. Shakur, Strong's number 7837, dawn, morning, to bring light. Sounds sort of like the Urim and Thummim, doesn't it? He was a light bearer. Was he? At one time, he was a light bearer. At one time, I believe with all my heart that he had the opportunity to be high priest wearing the vestments of the high priest over this particular domain.